Hello and welcome to Raising Anchor, your podcast and source for all things Rhode Island FC. I'm your host, Matt Intrican. Joining me is the one and only co-host, Mr. Jason Carey, and this is your Monday Mailbag for November 3rd, 2020-25. Jason, this is playoff edition. We've done it. We've advanced into the next round, onward to the semifinals after besting the Charleston Battery 0-0 and doing something we had not yet seen here in playoff play, and maybe, just maybe, a little bit further along in the short but amazing history of this club. Buddy, how are you doing over there, and how is everything else going for all of the people already joining for this wonderful episode of the show?
I'm doing great. I didn't have too much faith going into penalties, but hey, we had an incredibly convincing penalty shootout. So, I mean, at some point you're gonna figure it out. And we found it out at the perfect time.
Lots of questions about the penalty shootout, about the game in general. Super excited to unpack all of this. Want to kind of start things off with a celebration and just get immediately into Kano's comments. They are short and brief, but just to kind of hear how Kano himself felt after that final whistle, after extra time, after the penalties. It is a bit noisy. So for those of you that are listening with headphones, be prepared, because I'm pretty sure La Banda and the traveling supporter group from Defiance were right behind him on the other side of the fence celebrating with the team. So here's Coach Kano in his own words.
Impressive was the team's resilience to keep Charleston's attack to score.
Yeah, I mean, they're just warriors. They dug deep. Wasn't going to be an easy game, we knew that, but yeah, the mentality is what I'm so proud of, and the togetherness and just how they just stuck together. It was tough moments in the game. We knew it was going to be that, and they just stuck together.
Absolutely. The team has won with some impressive penalties. How proud are you of the mentality of the squad, especially late in the game?
What was the first part?
This team has won with some impressive penalties tonight.
Yeah. How
proud are you of the mentality with your squad, especially late in the game?
Yeah, I mean, as the game went on, people were getting fatigued, but they just need to keep digging deep and finding that next gear and the next pit in their stomach to continue to push themselves.
Absolutely. So North Carolina's up next. How do you prepare for another tough game on the road?
Yeah, same way we always do. We have 1 day shorter rest because the game was on a Saturday, but it's an easier trip, so it's not a difficult trip. So we'll rest up, recover, but another good team that will cause us some problems, but we know we can cause them some too.
Perfect. Thank you.
Cool. All right.
Awesome.
So I love, by the way, that this is like filmed on like a 1995 camcorder in what looks like the back streets of Charleston. I know exactly where he was standing because last year when we made the trip down for the Eastern Conference final, it's right out the locker room is this like trailer that Rhode Island FC, who famously sprayed champagne all over it last season, they're right outside of that. And so I know exactly where he was. Felt very like Blair Witch right there, very journalistic. I loved it. But listen, lots of chat in going on right now. One, they're complaining about the time switch. Are you feeling the effects of falling back, Jason?
I needed it. I had too much fun on Halloween, so I also exercised too much on the day after for some reason. I was like, I think I slept for like 9 to 10 hours.
I mean, that counts for extra regen for the team, right? They get 1 extra hour in that process before they go on to play at Patriots Point. It looks like it worked out for them. Maybe that's the secret we need, which is a little bit of time travel, and that's how this team is going to succeed. Overall, though, like we're going to get into this. We're going to answer the questions here, but give me the 30-second kind of recap of how you felt watching this game at the Guild with, by the way, packed Guild. It was completely full at one point. I watched them take, like they had to turn people away or have them stand outside until people left. I saw one patron go to leave. I don't know if he went to go to his car to go have a smoke break. And they said, if you come out, you may not get back in. And they turned around and was like, I'm staying inside. I'll hold on to whatever I needed to hold on to.
It was a lot of fun, but it was also very stressful. I was telling someone like not all 0-0s are created equal, and that was a battle. Both teams had some good opportunities. I mean, I remember when Cal Jennings got that breakaway, and Koke extended the leg to just deflect it. Like I thought it was Jover. I was like, he's gonna put us down.
I was like looking at the flag. Please go up. I was trying to will the onside flag or offsides flag for that matter.
Koke stood on his head and just kept us in.
And listen, it reminds me of the argument we were having towards the back half of the season, how important Koke Vegas is to this team. The run of form, sometimes the offense was clicking, other times it was the defense that was carrying the day, specifically under the leadership and support of Koke Vegas. Stepped up in big moments all across the back half of the season, but no more than in this game, where just demonstrated why he should have been the Golden Glove winner, whereas Damian Loss now out. The upsets are real, Jason. We're not going to talk about it too much tonight. Most of the people listening to the show, they've seen how this has all unfolded. Most of the lower seeds knocking out their upper seeds. I think only Colo Spigs failed to do cup magic, where you see Detroit dethrone Lou City, removing them as an obstacle. You see us with Charleston. Orange County gets it done against Sacramento. And even for their credit, though, Colo Spigs kind of kept FC Tulsa on their heels for a majority of the game.
Until extra time,
yeah,
to actually put them down. So they put up a fight.
Listen, I agree with you. 0-0s can at times be very much just slogs. This one did not feel like that whatsoever. The fans are hopping in this conversation, and we've got a lot of questions. So I say we just get straight into this, and we'll break down a little bit more with John Morrissey, the legend himself, this Thursday on the show to preview that North Carolina game and how these results impacted this match that we saw this most recent weekend on Sunday. So let's get straight into this, and let's start with these questions.
Yeah, so first one here we got from Leo. Is it possible to get any clarity on what happened in the second half stoppage time scuffle that dropped the game to 10v10? The game was physical and scrappy till then, but seemed to get way out of hand all of a sudden, then became a confusing jumble that ended when Jojea was sent off.
Yeah, so the thing that started it all was Husu Landry coming in and just bowling down a Rhode Island FC player, which triggered a violent conduct, giving him or earning him a straight red from Elton Garcia. I'm not trying to be an apologist in any way, shape, or form. You decide to do that kind of action, you are running that risk. I don't know. He wasn't already on a yellow. I don't know if that is a straight red. And it also depends on where Elton was standing in the moment to see it. But Husu comes in, just flying in and just pushes him straight back down to the ground. It's no head contact, but it's violent enough that it's uncalled for. So I can see the red, but I also wouldn't have been surprised if it was a yellow and a very strong talking to. I wouldn't have been surprised either direction. Of course, no one cares at the moment, and the red card doesn't come for a few minutes. Everyone's heated, both benches, everyone comes together, and it's Jojea Quizera who then comes back around screaming at Elton directly, the referee, the main official, to make a call in Rhode Island FC's favor. The problem with that, Jason, is that's not your job. That's the captain's job, to go and have those conversations, make the inquiry, defend the team, step in when it's appropriate. Jojea is hot. And we've talked about this at length about the advantage of having someone like Koke Vegas as the captain wearing the armband. But this isn't one of those moments where it's a disadvantage, because suddenly we see Koke Vegas now have to run from the other side of the pitch to come up and engage in the scuffle. Unfortunately, there's not enough time for that to break out, and we end up seeing Koke Vegas. By the time he gets there, Jojea gets his second yellow for, unfortunately, and it was argumentative. It wasn't even dissent. It was straight up argumentation, if that's a word. I may have made that up, but because he had that argument, he got his second yellow. Some questions on it, because Garcia went straight with the red. In the broadcast, you don't necessarily see the yellow if you're not looking for it, but it was a second yellow, which sees Jojea Quizera also leave the pitch. And I'll tell you, those two players coming together in that tunnel, or the exit for off the pitch, you never I don't know what words would have been exchanged in that player hallway. Maybe none. Obviously, security would need to be tight, but that was nevertheless a very heated moment, which will now see Quizera out for the semifinals. Unfortunately, he will not. And even if it wasn't warranted, you can't argue a yellow from a disco perspective. So it's not like it's even questionable at this point. So we will be without him for that second game. So violent conduct for Husu Landry and argumentative for Jojea Quizera on that second one. Joe P, this is more of a statement, but let's dive into this. Great game at that 0-0 match. It had everything a playoff game should have. Both teams leaving it all out on the pitch, which, by the way, it looked like it was ready for an RSA or LASA league match. I guess the boys practiced their penalties on to North Carolina for another nail biter, and let's go Detroit City. Listen, I get the Detroit City comment because obviously that is a path forward to us for a potential playoff match at Centerville Bank Stadium. But I don't want either one of these teams to play. I just want them to have the game canceled. All of them get, COVID maybe, and we move on after. I don't want either one of these teams to be in the next card.
I think what you want is you want something very similar to what we just went through. You want them to basically batter each other off the field so that even though one of them comes out the victor, they're broken and bruised, so they don't go into the next match at full strength. Right? You want like 9v9, 0-0, 120 minutes, goes to PKs, and then on top of that, like each team only scores it's like 2-1 in PKs. Like they're all saved or like deflected or skying it. So it's very much not a feel good match.
Yeah. And talking about those penalties, listen, I didn't realize this until we pulled the stat. We knew we've been perfect in the regular season this year in game penalties. We've had 4 this year, all converted with Maxi Rodriguez at 2, Jorge Quizero with 1, and JJ Williams on that other additional 1. But in penalty shootouts to get a result, talking Jägermeister Cup or the legendary Independence match of the Open Cup last season, we have failed to win a game where penalties would decide it in the entirety of this club. How important was that to see on the day?
Oh, it's actually absolutely huge because, the team knows things like this too. I mean, sure, we're still a young team, so you can't hold it too much against them. But in our young history, it hadn't happened before. So obviously a lot of us were a little nervy going into it because we just haven't seen it happen. So now that we've got that, monkey off your back, if you will, we could go forward into the next one and say, hey, it's anyone's game. If we step up, are confident, and have a little bit of luck on our side, we'll have no problem going through.
I actually agree. And when you think about it, and James brings it up right away, going into these games, we know we're a defensive masterclass. We know that teams are going to have a difficult time breaking us down. It's not always on the other side of where goals click that we can see those wins come out. So we draw these games out. It becomes a battle of attrition. Suddenly we're going into PKs, and it was always like, oh, well, we did what we could. But here's where the fat ladies sing, so to speak. Now with this conversion and this win, all bets are off. Like you could almost say, hey, if the game's 1-1 and it gets through extra time, obviously we would want to put the game to bed earlier than that. But it's not as terrifying to know that, hey, at the end of the day, you're now going to have to face some of our best to win in a penalty shootout. If we can do it to Charleston, what team can't we do it to at this point?
I don't know. Maybe Elevation.
We'll have to see. What's the next question here?
Yeah, Rachel H here says that was the most exciting 0-0 I have ever seen. Am I crazy to say we looked like the better team?
This is an interesting one because I was talking with some people. I had a conversation with Devin Kerr because there was a conversation about with him and Tom Quinlan on like where was this team all season, and I think it was a tale of two halves, sort of, right? And it's only fair to say that because of the extra time involved. The first half of this game, we did not look good. It was more of us gelling, getting comfortable, trying to play to Charleston's strength versus playing to our own. We only had about 40% of the possession in the final third of Charleston's side, only in the final 15 minutes and beyond into extra time. So we were very much kind of cat and mouse with the ball. Weren't necessarily playing possession, which I loved that. Connor definitely abandoned that strategy on this game. But Charleston was still trying to dictate terms. They were still trying to dominate their style of play in the early outings of the game. We didn't even see a shot on target until the 40th minute of the match. So again, you take your time into it. How many times have we said, Jason, this is not a first half team this year? It's like, what? I have the stat, 21 of 31 games now into this postseason where we haven't registered a goal in the first half. The only team where still continues to be the Las Vegas Lights. But it was also, I think, JJ Williams. You got to look at his effectiveness in that first half. Only had 9 touches. They were finding it difficult for him to get into spaces to be a difference maker. A lot of the ball was on that left side again, running up the channel. And they were trying to do things, but Charleston was just getting in the way of that game plan. It was really, I think, in the substitutions and the determination of Rhode Island FC to really turn it on in the late stages of the second half to go for the win and not let it get to extra time. I don't think Charleston had that extra gear in them, and they certainly weren't prepared for what Rhode Island brought to the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess I would argue that, I wouldn't say, like, you could say tail two halves. I don't think it was a bad performance. I just think, like you said, we hadn't found our footing. We were still trying to get into the game. And if anything, being able to still keep them out when how many goals has this team scored? I mean, they scored the most goals in the league, right? Like more than
62 goals or something like that.
So the fact that we kept them out, and not only for just that first 45, but a full 120 minutes, that's impressive in itself.
That is a statement piece to what the rest of the league is going to have to figure out. Again, defense wins championships, right? Like, this is the moment. This is where playoff soccer gets crazy. I'll argue that while Charleston was kept out, full credit to Rhode Island FC. They never looked like they were out of their element either. They just weren't taking the ball forward and getting as clinical until that second half when things really activated. So I loved what I saw. I think it was a complete game. And we said this at length while we were at the Guild. We said it to many people ahead of this game this week. If Rhode Island FC, and I think this is true, Jason, for the rest of the season, if Rhode Island can find a way to score first, their destiny is in their own hands. If they have to chase a game, all bets are probably off the table at that point. So if you want to run a game 0-0 to the 75th minute and then turn on beast mode, like, I'm for it. I it's not always going to be the best for my heart.
Maybe not the most exciting, or maybe not great for our hearts. But
if you have a medical condition, you probably should not watch Rhode Island FC in the postseason, because it's painful, but in a good way, in a very good way. Matt Jean writes in, who said we couldn't win a penalty kickoff? Also, home playoff game is getting closer and closer by the day.
I absolutely love Matt Jean's optimism, but like, it hadn't happened yet. So I didn't say it couldn't happen, but admittedly, I wasn't ready to bet it all on us, because it just hadn't happened yet. At this point, like I said earlier, now that they've gotten that monkey off their back, like, I could go into a penalty shootout a little more calm, knowing that, hey, let's just see what happens.
I want to talk about the PK shootout order. I thought this was pretty interesting. One, Maxi and Aime Mobika substituted on in the final seconds of the game so that they can be a part of the penalty shootout. But not only are they a part of it, they're in the first 5 of the priority lineup. It's Williams to start things off, Jope, Rodriguez, then Bacharach, and finally Mobika, as we go 5 for 5. Thoughts on that? Is there any surprises? We know how damaging Rodriguez can be. This is the second time he's come off the bench cold to just blank a team in penalties. But 3 defenders in this top 5, like, where has this been? Like, what's going on?
Part of me has a sneaky suspicion that maybe coach has been working on this a little bit. It felt very it felt very much like this was like predetermined by coach. Not like, I'm gonna like let you guys decide. Like, no, I've determined who are the PK takers, and this is the order, and you guys are gonna go and do it. So next one here, Zach L says, I feel like the stars are aligning. All of the major roadblocks are out of our way for us to run it back. Also, the great Chicolio strikes again with more players doing it.
So I love that the great Chicolio is a thing now. And I did notice that after they won, Chico put the jersey over his head, and I think it was Bacharach who also joined in, maybe even a third player. So I'm glad that someone caught that in the broadcast. Hey, listen, if that's the Halloween costume for next year, I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to go around. We'd have to figure out what the actual total catchphrase for Chico would. We'll have to ask him, like, again, like, why are you doing this, and find some clever way to describe it. But I love it. And I think, again, to Zach's point, this really is, it feels kind of true, because if you think about it, we talked last week about the points per game. We talked about the record. We talked about the goals for against the Eastern Conference playoff teams, and we were not good. Unfortunately, for a majority of the season, we weren't good against any of these teams. Most of our points came from the bottom half of the table. And then when you look at the Western Conference, we were even worse against the playoff teams there. But now, with the way this is coming in, let's talk about it. Detroit City FC, we have 1 win and we have 1 loss. And I don't even think that loss is fair to talk about, Jason. It was a red card in the 6th minute from Frank Nadarce, and we were on the back foot for the rest of that game. And it was our, 3rd game of the season, 4th game of the
Something
season?
like that, yeah.
Then you have Pittsburgh. Again, they've been a thorn in our side. We've not done well against them historically, but we go out and get a statement win away at Highmark this season in the Jägermeister Cup. And if you want to try to brush that off, you can. But that was a Bob Lilly starting 11. He didn't rotate players. They were very much still trying to be in the hunt for Jägermeister Cup. And so that was a competent side. And we went in and we took care of business in a very scrappy smash and grab. So you look if we can get through North Carolina. And again, 1 win and 1 draw. And so we've taken points on each side of the season this year. Once we get through North Carolina, we go up and we either play Detroit with us at home, which we had a favorable result, or we go to Highmark, and we've done that this season. We've taken care of all of the teams that kind of had our number. Loudoun had our number. Hartford had our number. Lou City had our number. These teams are not out of the way. So we have kind of a dotted, almost direct line straight to the USL Cup final.
Yeah. I think that being said, if you look at the performances from these teams, and this is a very competent league, and like we cannot sleep on them. Obviously, they're not going to go out there and just be like, yeah, North Carolina, we beat them a bunch of times. But to get overconfident would be folly there.
And I don't disagree, but it's also a completely different conversation having that against Lou City, who lost 1 game all season, if we had ran into them in the Eastern Conference final.
Wasn't that 1 game also, ironically, against North Carolina FC?
Semantics. Semantics. So anyways, no, there's a very good path forward now. And on the western side of things, it's looking like, again, who knows? It's Phoenix right now. We drew very early on against Phoenix. We haven't seen Tulsa, so we don't really know what that is. And we didn't see Orange County this year, so we don't know what that is. New Mexico kind of is giving me the heebie-jeebies because you already predicted that we'd be running this back to the lab. And unfortunately, with Colo Spigs out, even if we do get to the final again, it's going to be an away final. So that's a problem that I would have loved if we could have had a hosting opportunity here at Centerville Bank Stadium. But right now, at least till that cup final, I think this is looking good. Jake F writes in, though, and this is interesting. Did Kano intentionally plan to ride that Road Warrior power throughout the playoffs?
No, if you've been in the room with him during those like conversations after some of our games during the season, he was absolutely livid at times. Like, he was incredibly frustrated. He didn't intentionally like sink the season to eventually just like turn it on at the end of the year and become Road Warriors. It just kind of happened this way. I don't know if this is like the DNA, the makeup of this team, and we can't fight destiny. But he was absolutely trying something different. He wanted to like really impose himself with the kind of 4-2-3-1 they were playing early on this year. I think he wanted to control games and thought that offensive power would just keep going, but it kind of didn't, and we floundered, and he kind of switched it back. And I mean, even now we're not playing the exact same thing. It's much more of a 3-4-3 than our like kind of 3-5-2, which, to be fair, are incredibly similar, but we're just playing a different version of what we found successful last year. And I don't think he did it on purpose. It'd be funny, but definitely didn't.
Did you notice, by the way, in this game that everyone thought Bacharak, ourselves included, was going to be the right-sided center back, and it was actually Frank, and Bacharak was actually back in the double pivot with Clay for a majority of the game? Like, there was a little bit of fluidity there. If Amos tucked up too high, the formation would float and they would stretch out, and Bacharak could drop down at times. But for the most part, Bacharak was given, and his heat map and his average positioning, he was given the permission to be back in that CDM pairing, and it worked. Like, I think Bacharak is a double pivot. I think he's a 6 first and foremost for us now. And like you said, coach is showing a willingness and ability to be fluid in his tactics. And I'll also give him credit. I think his substitutions and his time management has been getting better and better over the last 5 or 6 games. He's really finding ways to change the game in the middle of the match versus, maybe earlier in the season, maybe it was a little bit more reactionary, or maybe it was just with the amount of injuries, not necessarily seeing. Yeah, exactly. I think it's been fantastic.
Absolutely. Next one here, John G says, why wasn't the goal late into the second half for RAFC?
So he's talking about the goal where Zamudio goes to toss the ball in the air for a goal kick, and Quizera intercepts the ball in the air, puts it back, floats it as a pass back into the box, and we tap it in. A lot of confusion on the match. Even myself, I thought that the rules from IFAB where you couldn't make contact with the keeper, which meant like, if he's holding the ball, you couldn't knock it out. You couldn't like jostle or push the keeper so that there's some sort of stumbling. I thought once the keeper releases the ball, similar to like if he put the ball on the ground and stepped back and it wasn't an actual free kick, like that's an invitation to go after it. Full credit for Jojea for the shenanigans, because I thought that was awesome to see. But unfortunately, per IFAB, you cannot interfere with the keeper's kicking of the ball. And if that's a toss so that he can boot it, that is a part of the game now. I did not know that as of late, so shame on me for
also
repping.
You wouldn't have known it because the same thing happened to us. Someone did it against Koke, and they didn't get a yellow for it.
So, and that was the next question: is a lot of people were upset. Like, should he have gotten a yellow? Should it have just been a warning?
Because that was his
which
first,
is what triggers
second
his
was the fight. Yeah, but I can't remember exactly who it was. It wasn't too long ago. One of our home matches, someone did the exact same thing. Koke was trying to like go for a play a quick pass, and he blocked it, like jumped right in front of it, and then I mean, Andy's right. Like, it is optional, but then, like, at that point, I want some consistency.
Agreed. And Elton Garcia is not necessarily someone who will be consistent. We warned that despite the fact he's had the most games refed this season, also seen a lot of fouls. Unfortunately, now because of the double reds, he's also issued the most red cards in the league this season. So, yeah, that's why it wasn't, and it was called back. And then the yellow, like Andy said in the chat, is discretionary, so it was still applied. Hard to say, does that change things? I still think based on what happened with the incident with Husu, I don't think Quazera comes in anything less than that heated. So I still see that going down. But yeah, it's a game of what ifs now, right? If he hadn't gotten the yellow for that, would we still have him available? And how does that affect our chances against North Carolina this week coming up? Hard to say, but we'll have to kind of keep a close eye to it. Next question here. Kevin S. writes in, I don't want to take away from the game, but were you surprised at Maxi not getting playing time in this match? It's like he continues to go further down this roster. That's a very interesting. I didn't actually even think about that till I got this question in the email. That's a very astute observation. We didn't bring him in until a minute before it was time to go to PK. So don't see him in the 90. He's not brought in an extra time. You're basically playing do or die at this point. So not having a player of that talent, what do you think that says? Does coach have a different plan for him? Do you think there's maybe a health concern there? Like, that's a bit surprising that Maxi's not finding a way onto this pitch other than to shoot a PK.
Yeah, I still think there's some sort of weird square peg round hole issue. Maybe I think with the formation that we play, he can kind of play like a wide forward winger, but at the same time, Noah Fuson has got for him, and then AST is just a mad dog out there. Yeah. So I think those are the only positions I think he's, if anything, really fighting for.
Yeah. Kevin, if you're the same individual who asked me for kind of end of season, if we're going to sell Maxi Rodriguez, we'll definitely unpack that thread. I don't think we're selling him anytime soon, but I do think that this is a coaching dilemma of finding where does Maxi fit into this roster. And it's a shame because he's an incredible player. He's an incredible person, and he can be a difference maker. It's just, how do we find that piece on this pitch right now?
Just have to win penalties all the time. Luis L here says, I just read a stat that this has been the biggest cup set ever, but also the lowest goal scoring opening round in the history of the league. Is this the right direction the league should be going?
I'm assuming he means from a perspective of growing the game. That's the only thing I could think of, because obviously, and this goes to the casuals who like, you got excited about a 0-0 playoff game. Okay, whatever. I think that's where you're going. And Luis, if we're wrong, send us another email and we'll go back through it. But the reality is I do think that, and he's right, by the way. I don't remember the stats, but I think we saw 20 less goals.
I saw
on average. It was only like 6 goals scored
earlier on Twitter or something, and it was like 6 goals scored in the first round, and it was like 20 last year or something.
To me, I think one is we've always talked at length that the American game at the collegiate level, at the youth level, they build defenders. Historically, in the American system, we've always had a tenacity towards building defensive-minded players. That's why we always try to find that, dual citizenship player who we can bring into the team from an offensive side for the U.S. men's national team. So I think that you'll see a good crop of defensive-minded players. But I also think that once you get to elimination soccer, it's a different ball game, right? You're playing with a certain level of your back to the wall. You can't afford the mindset of, if we give up a goal, we'll go get another one, because you could be out at the end of this match. So I think players probably play at their best level, and that means it's harder for the offense to find that goal, that go-ahead goal. And it's also like, hey, like, we have to be thinking forward and backwards at all times, because we can't be the first team to concede. So I think the defenses are improving in the league. Maybe that's a question. Are we putting enough money into the offensive side of things to go and bring that kind of talent into the league? Maybe there's a balance that I'm not catching, or the pendulum will swing one way or the other. But like, I don't hate it. I think if we get through the rest of the playoffs and we only see 6 more goals across the semis, the conference finals, and then the cup, I think that would be pretty tragic. But like, also too, like, I still had a time of my life at the Guild yesterday watching a 0-0 game. So like, I don't hate it, but I understand the comment.
Yeah, no, I get it. I wouldn't read into it too much, because it's also just 1 year, right? There was plenty of goals scored last year. If this continues to happen again next year, maybe you start to think this is a trend. But also the reality is, the game kind of goes with ebbs and flows in terms of like, what's the popular style right now that everyone's emulating and copying. What's the new crazy thing they're doing in Europe? Let's copy that style. So, it is what it is. It's, let's wait till the end of the playoffs here to kind of take a step back and see how many goals do, like, collectively all of the USL teams score.
If Rhode Island
like
FC,
you said, if it's 6,
if Rhode Island FC doesn't score a single goal but gets the USL Cup final, would you be okay with that?
I mean, I'd totally be okay with winning a title. Whether or not, like, do we, defend our way to the title? Okay. Hey.
Mom 401k writes in, bottom line for going all the way, enough rocking the boat, it's time to sink it. Put the ball on frame and finish the play. No middle ground for Mom 401k. What's this next question here? Jeff writes in, yesterday was definitely Never Say Die personified. Also, I'm wearing the new Believe shirt to mass on Sunday morning, and it felt a little presumptuous, but what the hell? It's RIFC in the playoffs. Jason, you bought some Believe shirts. You bought me a size too small intentionally. You're telling me I got to lose weight, and I respect you for it.
So the team needs to
team,
bigger,
let's
bigger
connect. I need
here.
a bigger size. Otherwise, I got to lose a little bit of weight, and it's just easier to buy the size right now, because I believe I could lose weight, but it's going to take some time. Do you think the community believes? Do you think they believed before, Jason? Because I feel like everyone in that room believed, but do you think Rhode Island's going to suddenly activate and come alive at the fact that they now know that this team once again demonstrates that they are winners on the pitch in playoff soccer?
After that performance, I think absolutely everyone believes, right, that we went out and took down the number 2 seed, the highest scoring team in the league, and it basically a statement win at that point. So I think everyone believes that, like you said, the path now is clear. Obviously, we have to respect our opponents, but Louisville's gone. We have, we just took out Charleston. We'll see what happens on the West Coast, but we got to get there first anyway.
I'll ask you this too. Speaking of believe, I hadn't heard something for a very long time until that game. I heard the 2014 U.S. men's national team believe chant. Thoughts?
I'd say that's for USMNT only. It's not really.
It was nostalgic to hear it one time.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to gatekeep.
I hate it.
I've been accused of gatekeeping all week of telling fans how to fan. So like, I'm not going to tell you what to do. But I don't think that's Rhode Island FC's version of that. I'd rather believe in love after love, and just go after go share if we're going to believe in something. So.
I mean, for the most part, all chants are just recycled versions of other chants or songs, and you just kind of tweak it to make it your own, if you will. But yeah, I mean, if people latch onto it, I'm not gonna hate on it, but I'm not gonna push it myself. Let's see. Lisa V here says, can you go over the discipline rule for cards through the playoffs again? Because we seem to enjoy making that relevant.
So the interesting thing here is actually it doesn't matter, Lisa, because there's not enough yellow card accumulative discipline that could exist in the playoffs for you to be suspended on yellow card disco. So it's really just red card accumulation at this point, and it carries into the next game. If you do get a red card into the USL Cup final, I'm 90% sure it does carry into your first match if you continue to play in the championship, but it does not carry over from like a FIFA rule if you move to MLS or you go to USL 1 or something like that. So bear with me. That one I'm not 1,000% confident on. But as of right now, what matters is Jose Quazera with that two yellow cards into red card suspension does mean he'll miss out on the next game against North Carolina in Cary, North Carolina. Mo B writes in, what is the definition of chances created? Crossing? Does it need to be a shot on target? What if it should have resulted in a shot? And how do we compare it with what Charleston did? Before you even say anything, Jason, Tyler invaded our Discord channel and already explained everything on there. So, Tyler, you're welcome to come on the show anytime you want and explain the technicalities of soccer ahead of our programming. Totally fine with me. But do you want to take this, or do you want me to walk through the explanation for how crosses are computed?
I mean, if he's already got the answer, I came in here hot, not ready for this question.
That's how we prepare for the show. So crossing, or sorry, not crossing, excuse me. Chance creation is basically just two stats. It is one, did you have an assist, and did the key pass that was pushed forward lead to a shot?
Pass, yeah.
And that's it. It's just the combination of those two things, and that's your chance created. Big chance creation is something that takes into account, similar to an XG heat map, the quality of that assist and or key pass. But those numbers are really hard to dive through, and I'm not quite sure. Some stats like companies do it. One, like Opta has a program that determines big chance creation versus the others. So primarily, Mo, all you need to know is chance creation can come from crosses. It can come from anything that creates either a key pass or an assist. That is that shot. That shot does not need to be on target. It just needs to be registered as a shot. If it is a shot on target, it's counted the same. That shot on target conversion may be a part of the big chance creation opportunities as well. Again, I feel like there's an XG factor to it, but that's as simple as it is. In terms of our chance creation, you have on your side, Jason, the stats are up comparing Charleston to Rhode Island. Shot wise, I think they were better than us by 3 shots, or do I have that backwards? Was it 15 to 12?
Let me see if we look at which side. That's them. Okay, they had 10 shots inside the box. We had 7. I mean, we created 0.95 xg. They only did 0.57. So even with more shots, they weren't as high quality.
Again, I thought we looked like the better team. Cal Jennings had a couple of sprints, a couple of looks at goal. The Malloy shot that Koke full extend, punches out of the goal before it can go in. I don't think that it felt very similar to how we shut down Nick Markanek last year. It seems like despite MD Myers was furious all game, Cal Jennings could not get activated. Myers was frustrated, and Malloy just wasn't there. He got that head injury early on in the game from going head to head with JJ Williams. They just didn't seem to be all there. I don't know, and people were asking me at the game, where was Juan David Torres? He was not in the 18. Someone said that there was a video of him training outside of the country. I don't know. We didn't cover Charleston. We tried to get someone to come in and talk about Charleston. Don't really know, but you don't have Torres for this game. That's a big difference maker in and of itself. So instead you rely on Douglas Martinez, and you also rely on Arturo Rodriguez. Those are not the same type of player profiles. So I don't know if Charleston suddenly had one hand tied behind their backs, kind of from an offensive side of things. It almost feels wrong to say that, given how prolific they've been this season. But we definitely did better in most categories. And even if the stat test, and how often we said this year, even if the stats don't match, what the eyeball test said that we were a fantastic high-flying offense. I mean, JJ Williams hitting the frame like that, I think to Mom 401k's point earlier, like just inches away from getting the go-ahead goal and not even having to worry about penalties. If that goal had gone in, obviously we'd be feeling a little bit different, but does it almost feel good to win in penalties now that we know we can do that in playoff soccer?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, it feels great to just get past that at this point. So
Agreed.
what do we got here? Andrew Silva says, how will the lineup look now since Jojea is suspended? Will they go to 4-back now, or will they stick in Sanchez to fill that role?
I mean, we've heard Connor tell both of us directly in the press conference that he sees the player profile of Quizera and Sanchez as almost identical. And if anything, Sanchez has a penchant for going backwards first, whereas Quizera will take the extra step forward. So from a production side of things, and I don't have Sanchez's numbers on like right in front of me, but he's again been one of the most reliable cross distributors, chance creators all season. I think Noah's started to edge him out a little bit as Sanchez has been relegated to substitution roles at this point. But Sanchez can absolutely do damage and be effective. I looked at the possession of each of the final thirds and then each of the wings, still with Quizera on the pitch, 50% domination until about the 75th minute, where suddenly we started to look a little bit more free play, a little bit more open. Like when Sanchez is on the pitch, a lot of the ball, especially with Fuson, kind of can float wherever he needs to be. We tend to be left-sided heavy. And so as soon as Sanchez came onto the pitch as that emergency substitute after the red card, suddenly we saw the game open back up in extra time, and we were a little bit more evenly distributed on each side. So I see them as like for like. Do you see something that Sanchez won't offer that Quizera has besides maybe the dribbling, which I don't think that's really been his game this year?
Yeah, no, I would argue if you took last year Quizera, there'd be a drop off there, but he's been a little inconsistent this year. So I'm totally confident in Sanchez. I think that's pretty much just a like for like swap there. At this point, you don't want to change too much, right? It's working. So if everyone's healthy, you almost put out the same thing every time because there's only at this point, there's only a few games left in the season.
Agreed. And I would also say, I don't want to scare people, but we may have seen Quizera's last game. I still have not heard anything about his contract unless I missed something, but I believe he's still in the negotiation of potentially securing past his club option. So we may have seen Quizera's last game, or maybe he'll be coming back. It all depends on how we do in this playoff run. Like we win it all. It's like really hard to say, hey, sorry, I know you helped us get here, but we don't want you back, right? Like that would be an interesting thing. Nevertheless, Alan P writes in, and Alan, I'm not sure I want to even have to say this out loud because I'm trying to avoid this. Friendly reminder that Hartford Athletic has still never won a playoff game since their creation in 2019. Hashtag up the tide. So there was some conversation after Hartford got knocked out of the playoffs on the Discord, and whatever side of the fence you're on that, I'm not here to debate that. I don't want to. I'm superstitious. I'm not just a little stitious. I'm superstitious. And we saw teams like Hartford talk some trash to us last year in the Open Cup, only to get knocked out right after we did by an MLS Next Pro team. So I just don't want that voodoo ever on me, Ricky Bobby. If you want to go and talk trash and you want to throw insults out there, fine. I'm not going to gatekeep. And in fact, right after we won, producer Torin had a meme ready, the updated meme from the derbies we had, and it showed Siaha getting knocked out. We tagged him in it. He had no comment for us. I don't know why he didn't want to share, but I wasn't going to put that out there until after we took care of business, at least in round one, because it's just, I don't want this club to ever be so absorbed in the competition of others that we lose focus on what we got to do. Does it matter? And I went and found it, by the way. I knew they had Hartford had a playoff game. They lost in 2020 to St. Louis FC in the first round. That was a home game for them in that pandemic bubble tournament year that they had. Does this matter? Does the fact that Hartford still has never won a playoff game and we've won what now 4? Do we need to lord this over them too? Get the tifo ready
for the rivalry. I mean, I guess, and everyone has their own, I guess, version of how invested they want to get into that. Will I maybe chuckle to myself a little bit about it? Yeah, but am I going to go gloat about it online? Not really. That's just not my style. But like you said, it's their prerogative. If you want to go out there, I would maybe say try and keep it classy. Don't make the rest of us look like, you know, stay out of people's DMs. Whatever you're gonna say, say it in public.
I completely agree. I must disagree. I completely agree with that. What's this next question?
Ben R here says, how are you guys' brackets doing? I remember you both predicted Phoenix and Orange County SC, I think.
Yeah. So did you do a USL Championship one as well, or do you only have the ones from that we did for the podcast?
I just did the one for the podcast.
So then pulling up yours really quick. Let's see here.
So I was wrong on Loudon and Hart. So I was wrong on the Loudon and Hartford there.
So you got the West perfectly.
Yeah.
But you did not get the East right except for us. So yeah, you got Tulsa, Phoenix, you got United Orange County, and then you bombed out on the Eastern Conference. On mine, I got Pittsburgh and North Carolina, so I only got Detroit. I didn't predict Detroit. I went too bold on Colo Spig, so I'm out for Tulsa. And then I really believe Sacramento was going to get the job done. So I think I'm at 50%. You're at 55%. So, I mean, it doesn't matter. Both of our brackets are now completely worthless.
They're both trashed.
We will not be getting any of that locked up. So, hey, it is what it is. Sam W. writes in, so Sporting Jacks is a thing after all. Jason, it's like predictions guaranteed to be wrong. If we say something won't happen, I feel like at this point, it's going to happen.
So the league watches a show and they just wait until we trash on their team and then they just announce that they're real.
It's fine. It's
fine.
Because
obviously that happens.
I will say though, I went back and looked at that Yahoo article. It doesn't say much more than that they will compete. It's almost like because we made the joke that Yahoo Sports division isn't exactly groundbreaking. It's almost like someone gave them a season ticket information pack and they're like, oh, there's a soccer team coming to Jacksonville, let's talk about that. We're like they're a year behind versus being at the forefront of any news. I still haven't gotten any confirmation from the league yet. They've obviously been busy with this other thing we're about to talk about, but hey, Sporting Jacks is here. I'm fine with it. I
Doesn't
just show
the
up
league
already.
Start in March?
Listen, man, I don't know how these
not
teams
that
work.
Far away.
We were very spoiled with how Brett Johnson and ownership built this team, with Kano having the length of time and span of control he had. We just have to enjoy the great gifts we've been given, which is why we're in the playoffs and teams like Lexington aren't. So we'll just leave it at that. What's this question here?
Tim here says, does the hiring of Tony Scholes give the USL Division I more credibility? How do you think it will affect things like international perception, negotiations with USF Division I standards and waivers, investment in the league, and expansion clubs?
I think this is the most important thing that they've done as a league all season, maybe even all year, and that goes above and beyond the announcement of ProRel and Division I. This is a statement of intent right here. You go out and you secure the services of someone who knows what it looks like at the highest level of the game, and I don't even just mean from the operations standpoint of like the internal structure and the alignment. This is also someone who is part of the conversation for broadcast rights. This is for the sponsorships. This is someone who understands the game at levels that we could never understand that business side of it at, but also can then translate it to on-field product. So I think this is probably the biggest news that I don't think fans are going to appreciate or understand for years to come. And this tells me that this is no longer some kind of cookie cutter ragtag idea that they want to see succeed. This is a statement of intent. This is a declaration that this will not only happen, it'll happen in a successful way, and it will happen with thought and specificity that will drive the soccer in America forward. Lots of questions that I got. One other one, which we're not going to talk about here, but someone did ask, like, well, why would this person come from the top of Premier League to USL, Division I, which right now we don't really know what that is. And Scholes said in his interview acceptance, we got a press release from it, the USL has the rare chance to build something from a clean sheet, a league structure rooted in performance, sustainability, and community connection. I look forward to working with the league's leadership and new and existing clubs to establish the standards and systems that will ensure the USL's long-term success. Scholes will begin, by the way, this role in the summer of 2026 after the Premier League season is ending. But I want to go back to that. He said new and existing clubs to establish. Remember, he is going to be a part of the entire system. He may be the most important part, but his chief responsibility is Division One. That was an interesting part to me. Like new teams that we have not even heard of yet may end up in Division One, or maybe it's some of these new expansion teams that are in the chip right now. I think this is the most important thing we could see. I don't know how you feel about it in terms of the overall question with Tim saying negotiations for standards. I think he's the guy that gets any of this done now. Like if there's a problem, he just goes, hey, like this is what we're going to do. This is how we do it. And if there's enough financial backing now at this point, I actually no longer am afraid. I was maybe fearful. I had doubts before. I'm beyond confident now that this is going to be the right thing for the league and for the Division One that we're going to see soon. What say you?
The only like question I would have there is then, like you said, the financial backing, right? If that is there, because he can come over with every idea and system that he's taken over from the Premier League, but if we don't get these teams like financially backed in a way that makes sense, right? Like we were just talking last week about how there's some teams where the facilities were, substandard and players were having to like wash their own jersey. Like if you have a Premier Division, you're not going to have the guys washing their own kits, right? Like obviously we can't have state of the art cryo freeze chambers in every exercise room, but like there needs to be a certain standard. And so that needs to be elevated. There's a World Cup next year. There's huge opportunity for soccer in this country. And I think if the investment goes there, I think this will definitely, like Tim asked, I think this will bring credibility to the league. I think you'll have more eyes. I think you will have an MLS looking over the shoulder who are not in danger in any way, shape, or form, but are like at the same time, it almost feels like they've kind of capped out what they can achieve. There's a certain ceiling and they're basically there.
They're either going to flatline and have opening up of their financial system themselves to where they get rid of their salary caps and their payroll structure, which could then topsy-turvy the league. And then the only thing left is to buy USL out because they can't grow more, because how do you have an even table when you have 30 teams? You really can't expand more. And so you division and break it down. Like MLS has put themselves in a place, but USL has like infinite possibilities at this point to a certain degree.
Yeah, the roadmap is still very much open for them to kind of write their own story here. So
no, I'm excited. I think this will bring a lot of gravitas, and it's very much appreciated and looking forward to. So I can't wait to see. I just now know after our conversation with Connor Tobin about, we really don't know what's going on with the ProRel. I at least hope that maybe this gives a little bit of an expedited catch up to where do things fall with you, at least Division One and those ProRel standards. But I don't see these barriers that we had seen as long standing obstacles. I think that those walls are going to start coming down. Listen, I have one last question for you. Ben Silva in the Discord asked, how are we feeling?
We're feeling great. We're believing.
I am full of belief. My shirt will be on, but it'll be an undershirt because it will be too snug, as was said by Jeff in the chat here a second ago. I'm super excited.
We'll turn it into one of those muscle tanks. Just cut the sleeves off, and we'll go.
Yeah, I think I should absolutely wear a muscle tank with all those muscles that I don't have. So I'm excited for this. We will be traveling down as of now. We'll be driving down. So we'll be driving from Rhode Island down to North Carolina day of. So we're going to be road warriors ourselves, the sickos that we are. And like I said, we're gonna have the legendary John Morrissey on the show to review and pre-cap the North Carolina match this weekend. Jason, what's the final word until Thursday's show?
Just gonna believe it. We're gonna stick with it.
I can't wait.
All right, everyone. Make sure to check out our friends over at the Blazing Musket for all of your New England soccer coverage. That's including RAFC at theblazingmusket.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Threads, TikTok, and Blue Sky at RAFC Podcast. We have an Instagram at Raising Anchor. And then let's check out that website, raisinganchorpodcast.com. Anchors up, everyone. Catch you on Thursday.
Anchors up. Let's believe.